I'm a full-time musician. What else? I'm 29 years old. I've been in Florida for, it'll be 10 years this October, and I really love Thai food a whole lot. So my story is about butterflies. Said I was gonna start this because I'm scared, but I'm gonna talk for 30 minutes. Anyway, so I used to not like butterflies. I used to think they were really hideous because I was like, well, their wings are pretty, but there's like a hideous caterpillar in the center. That doesn't seem right. So I was on a walk with my mom like years ago in my earlier 20s, and there was this like giant bush with all these butterflies in it, and you know, we exchanged like a mutual disgust for like clusters of things, and also just clusters of butterflies in particular. And she was like, oh my gosh, there's so many. And I was like, I know, gross, right? And so I don't know when the switch happened, but at some point, somewhere around 2 years ago, I started to think they were really beautiful. And I had a moment with God where I was like, God, I want you to speak to me in butterflies. And I said some other things too, but I'm gonna stay focused. Butterflies. And so then I started to see them, because I had realized that I hadn't seen them like a lot. So I would be like walking my boyfriend at the time's dog, and they would just be like fluttering by. Sometimes I would see 3 at a time, all different colors, and be like, that's weird. And then it was just, I realized like, they don't see their wings, like they can't tell how beautiful they are, which I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing. And so I started to like make connections like, oh, like maybe people are like butterflies, like we're actually really hideous, but we have beautiful parts to us as well. And I think it wasn't until I learned more about what happens to butterflies in the cocoon that I was really like, wow, like I know why I'm seeing them everywhere, and not just seeing actual butterflies, but I'd be like at a gas station and I'd see a woman with butterfly earrings, or I'd be at a party and someone would have a butterfly tattoo, or I'd be watching a movie and there'd be like a poster in the room of the person having dialogue with themselves, and there'd be like a butterfly on the poster, and I'd be like, okay, what's going on here? So on more than one occasion, I came across the reality of what happens to butterflies in the cocoon. So I used to think like, oh, okay, it's like hibernation time. They go into the cocoon, easy breezy, they go to sleep, they wake up with wings. No big deal. That's not what happens. What happens is actually they go into the cocoon and they're reduced to a soup-like texture. Soup-like, y'all. Okay? So I'm not sure whether or not the caterpillar knows what awaits it when it goes into the cocoon, but if you had a cocoon, like if your cocoon was like your studio apartment or wherever fabulous castle you live, would you really go in there if you knew you were gonna be reduced to soup when you got in? You'd be like, nah, I'm good, I can go somewhere else, that's fine. So they go in, they embrace that process, they go in, they're reduced to soup, somehow become a caterpillar again, but with wings. And then they have to fight through the strong self-made silk cocoon that they've made to encapsulate themselves, and then they have to break through that so they can test out their wings and fly. And this is amazing to me for a couple of reasons. One, that they would subject themselves to that torture. Two, it's gotta be really painful to be reduced to soup. That's gotta suck. And three, after they've gone through that whole process, like you just got punked, you're not coming to sleep, you're being reduced to soup, and now you have wings, cool, awesome, good perk, right? But now you have to like fight out of this cocoon that you've never had to fight out of before, because you've only ever made one. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm starting to see what God wants me to pay attention to. Because before I was like, oh, butterflies are just, he's trying to let me know that he's here, which he's always here, but it's like, pay attention to, I don't know, whatever lesson you're supposed to learn right now, or know that I'm gonna go with you through whatever this is. But it's really about transformation. It's about embracing transformation and not running from it. And so for me, that took the form of several things. One is sobriety, which I fought for a really long time I didn't want it to be my reality. I was like, oh, my other friends can smoke weed, oh, my other friends can drink, like, why can't I do it? But I can't, like it's just not in the cards for me. So for me, I had to embrace like being sober is the best thing for me. I'm I'm pretty crazy, like, I'm pretty nuts, so I don't really need anything. That's why I didn't get coffee, I got water. Because even caffeine is like, too much. Another thing is that I had to leave a church last September. I came out to my pastor as bisexual, and I was really grappling with that, like since I was like, maybe like 13 to 17, and also in my early 20s, and it all came around full circle when I realized like, this is not a phase, it's not going away, so I, came out to him, and he didn't reject me, but it wasn't an acceptance. It was like, yeah, I disagree, but we still love you, and I accepted that for a few months, because I think I came out to him initially in July, and by September, my spirit was just like, nah, I can't do this. So I was like, I guess God's just gonna have to hate me, because I had an idea that like, if I'm not in a church, or if I'm not straight, then, or if I'm not at least straight but hiding this other part of me, that he can't love me. So I had to like begin that. What is that Rumi quote? And you, when will you begin that long journey into yourself? And yeah, so I left the church in September, and then it just, more and more things kept happening. Like I got sober, I left the church that I was at for 2 years, I was in a relationship for 4, that he actually introduced me to this church, and that relationship had to end. So just a bunch of things that I was really reluctant to go through, and I'm sure, since I'm still alive, that God is not done with me yet. I'm sure there's gonna be more things I'm like, I don't wanna let go of me, God, please. And I don't know if you've seen this meme, but there's like a meme, is it a meme? I don't know what categorizes a meme, but there's an image with a little girl like holding on to a teddy bear, and there's a Jesus figure like opposite her, asking for the bear, but she's like, I don't wanna, like, it's obviously a frozen image, it's not a movie or a clip, but you can tell that he's like gesturing like, give me the bear, it's okay. And he's got this like gigantic bear behind his back, and it's just like, a lot of times I forget that, because I've really become attached to whatever it is that's my creature comfort, whether it's materialistic, or whether it's a person or a place, or an idea that I have about something. He's like, if you'll just let it go, I can give you this other thing, but I can't give you this other thing until your hands are open. So I guess that's my journey, is just, I used to hate butterflies. I started to love them for a reason that was bigger than I even knew, and now I realize it's because I was fighting against transformation, and I feel like God has been telling me, this is gonna suck. It's gonna be painful. Like what Justin said. You're not gonna like it at all. But it's gonna be beautiful if you just trust it. So, thanks.